Coming up on this Friday edition of Newsline at noon, President Park Geun-hye calling for enhanced links between Asia and Europe, emphasises the importance of North Korea taking part in the process as a responsible nation. Back and forth accusations over this week's military talks between the two Koreas are clouding prospects for planned high-level political talks due to be held within the next few weeks. Plus, global leaders and health officials step up efforts to stop Ebola from spreading beyond the 3 West African nations hit hardest by the killer virus. These stories and more on Newsline at noon.
It's Noon Friday, October 17th here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in. Live from Seoul, I'm Eoh Jin-joo.
It's very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broome. We start with President Park's trip to Italy, and the Korean leader has laid out her extremely ambitious vision of developing transportation, technology and even education links between Asia and Europe.
Speaking at the 10th Summit of Asia-Europe meeting in Milan, the president also promoted her so-called Eurasia initiative that's aimed at helping North Korea become a responsible member of the international community. Choi-sun, who's traveling with the president, sends us this report.
Addressing some 50 world leaders at the Asia-Europe meeting in Milan Thursday, the Korean president first talked about enhancing the physical link between the two continents. She proposed a global symposium to discuss a rail, land, sea and air transportation and distribution network system across Eurasia. President Park then talked about a digital link, vowing to expand from the Korea-led Trans-Eurasia Information Network, a high-speed connectivity of research and education institutes in more than 50 countries. Lastly, the Korean leader highlighted connecting the two continents' culture and education to increase mutual understanding and to build trust, ultimately solidifying the basis of worldly peace. In that regard, President Park referred to her Eurasia initiative of linking the region, including North Korea, for growth, innovation and peace.
저는 평소 철도를 타고 한반도 남단의 부산을 출발해 북한을 통과해서 유라시아 대륙을 건너 유럽으로 밀라노로 오는 꿈을 키워왔습니다.
She said both Asia and Europe should strengthen efforts in persuading the North to open its doors to the world and change, and that a nuclear-free and peaceful unified peninsula would then become a strong nexus for Eurasia. As the two continents seek to boost cooperation on world issues, the Korean president announced Seoul will step up its part in the global fight against the Ebola outbreak by sending health personnel to the affected regions in West Africa.
또한 한국은 여러 나라로 확산되고 있는 에볼라 바이러스 대응을 위해 인도적 지원을 제공한 데 이어 보건 인력을 파견하기로 결정하였습니다.
On day 2 of the summit, President Park will have an opportunity to speak about issues concerning the Korean peninsula and Korea's contributions to the future of ASEM. Choi Yoo-sun, Arirang News, Milan.
Now, staying in Milan on the sidelines of the ASEM summit, President Park held one-on-one meetings with several world leaders, including Chinese Premier Li Keqiang. During those talks, President Park and Premier Li reaffirmed the two countries' shared stance that they will never tolerate North Korea's nuclear program and work towards denuclearizing the North. In particular, Seoul's presidential office told reporters that Li promised that Beijing will play a constructive role in restoring stability on the peninsula and realizing a peaceful unification of the South and the North. The Chinese premier also mentioned this week's military talks between the two Koreas, saying it has great significance and that China wants inter-Korean ties to improve. Now back to the Ebola outbreak. President Park Geun-hye has pledged to help with global efforts to stem the spread of this deadly virus. And leading the way are the U.S. and U.K., which have taken new actions to support efforts on the ground in the hardest hit countries. Shin Se-min tells us more.
Global efforts to stop the spread of Ebola have been ratcheted up. Nearly 100 British Army medics landed in Sierra Leone on Thursday to treat healthcare workers who have contracted the virus. They have joined 40 British soldiers already stationed there, and some 750 additional troops will be deployed in the coming months. More help from the U.S. is also on the way. U.S. President Barack Obama issued an executive order on Thursday that will allow for National Guard and reserve forces to be deployed to West Africa. While their potential role has not yet been identified, the first troops to arrive are expected to help build 17 Ebola treatment centers with 100 beds apiece. Inside the United States, the White House has rejected calls from Republican lawmakers to impose a travel ban to the U.S. from Ebola-stricken countries. As for the 2 confirmed cases in the United States, Nina Pham, the first person to contract Ebola on U.S. soil, has been transferred from Dallas to a federal hospital outside Washington, D.C. for treatment. Trying to quell public concerns, health authorities insist there is virtually no risk to Americans beyond the medical workers who are involved in treating Ebola victims and people who have been to West Africa recently. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
The South Korean government has proposed holding the next round of high-level talks with the North on October 30th. But will they actually take place? Now, with Seoul and Pyongyang trading accusations over their military talks on Wednesday, prospects are looking rather dim at the moment. Connie Kim reports.
Inter-Korean relations seem to be on the right foot following a surprise visit to South Korea by a high-level North Korean delegation earlier this month. But Pyongyang's criticism of Seoul's attitude before and during Wednesday's military talks is eroding hope the two sides could forge better ties. North Korea has lashed out at South Korea for rejecting its suggestions on ways to improve inter-Korean ties after a handful of military altercations at the border. The North Korea Central News Agency reported Thursday that North Korean officials' proposals about stopping vessels crossing the sensitive maritime border and preventing the flying of anti-Pyongyang leaflets fell on deaf ears during talks earlier this week. The report also bashed Seoul for being reluctant to discuss urgent issues. Following the two Koreas' exchange of fire across a disputed maritime border last week, Pyongyang says it sent 3 letters to South Korea before Seoul agreed to sit down for talks. Also lashing out at the South for sending a lower-level delegation than it sent for Wednesday's talks, Pyongyang accused Seoul of only wanting to discuss the main agendas at planned high-level political talks. Regarding Pyongyang's criticism that Seoul called for closed-door discussions, South Korea's defense ministry stressed the North previously accepted Seoul's offer that the military talks be held discreetly. Seoul has already admitted Wednesday's meeting went nowhere, but it has expressed hope about making a breakthrough at the political talks. Earlier this week, Seoul suggested holding that round of talks on October 30th, but the North has yet to respond to the proposal. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is back in the public eye again. North Korea's state-run Korean Central News Agency reported Friday that Kim had inspected a newly built apartment complex at the Kim-chaek University of Technology in central Pyongyang. It was not indicated when the tour took place, but the North Korean leader is shown carrying the same cane he had in images earlier in the week when he visited a separate residential complex. That was the first time Kim had been seen in public in 40 days, during which rumors and speculations mounted about his possible health problems and even a coup.
A group of 6 North Korean defectors have been arrested by police in northern Laos. An organisation based in Laos that supports North Korean defectors says the group was caught at a checkpoint in Luang Namta province while trying to get to the capital Vientiane. 5 of them are known to be women in their 20s to 40s. The other is a middle-aged man. The activist organisation says it believes they all escaped North Korea individually and at different times. A South Korean who has been helping the defectors is calling on the South Korean embassy there to secure their release. Embassy officials say they cannot provide details out of concerns for the defectors' safety. Last May, a group of 9 North Korean youths caught in Laos were deported and later repatriated to North Korea. South Korea and the United States will hold a joint foreign and defense ministers meeting next week on the sidelines of their annual security consultative meeting in Washington. Diplomatic sources say the decision to hold the meeting was made back in April during high-level talks in Seoul between US and South Korean officials. Both countries will discuss the timing of the transfer of wartime operational control from Washington to Seoul, as well as their combined defense capability against a very unpredictable North Korea. The so-called OPCON transfer is scheduled to take place in December 2013, but both sides are thought to have reached a consensus on pushing the date back several years, considering North Korea's nuclear missile threats. The official agenda, however, will not include discussions on deploying a US missile defense system known as THAAD to the Korean peninsula. Back here in South Korea, and when President Park Geun-hye was running for office a couple of years ago, she spoke in support of constitutional reforms that would change Korea's presidential system from one 5-year term to the possibility, if re-elected, of 2 4-year terms, which is much like the system we see in the United States, of course. But now the president wants the National Assembly to instead focus on revitalizing the sluggish economy, at least prioritizing that. And with that in mind, the leader of the president's own ruling party may have spoken out of turn this week because he called for talks on constitutional reform. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
Constitutional reform has become a political hot potato despite President Park Geun-hye's appeal to politicians to refrain from arguing over the issue, at least until the economy is back on a normal growth track.
장기간 표류하던 국회가 정상화돼서 이제 민생 법안과 경제 살리기에 주력해야 하는데 개헌 논의 등 다른 곳으로 국가 역량을 분산시킬 경우 또 다른 경제의 블랙홀을 유발시킬 수 있습니다.
The chief of the president's own ruling Saenuri party, however, has touched off a heated debate over the constitutional revision. Wrapping up his 4-day visit to China on Thursday, Kim Moo-sung told reporters that now is the time for a discussion on the matter and that he expected it to emerge as a key political agenda once the regular session of the National Assembly ends in December. On Friday, Kim apologized for what he called his carelessness in commenting on such a sensitive issue and clarified that he also wanted such discussions to begin next year. If and when that happens, the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy will be ready. They say the current system is obsolete and that a majority of lawmakers from the ruling and opposition parties are supportive of a revision. Key opposition lawmakers have called for the establishment of a special committee at the National Assembly to start the process. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, there's been another move that's sure to enrage Japan's neighbours. The Japanese leader has sent a traditional offering to a controversial war shrine in Tokyo. That said, the offering suggests Shinzo Abe will avoid personally visiting the Yasukuni Shrine as he tries to set up face-to-face meetings with his Korean and Chinese counterparts next month. Our Hwang Sang-hee reports.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe sent a ritual offering to the war-linked Yasukuni Shrine in Tokyo on Friday. Japan's Kyodo News Agency reported that Abe dedicated a Masakaki tree branch on the first day of the shrine's annual Fall Festival that runs through Monday. On the same day, dozens of lawmakers paid a group visit to the shrine. The Yasukuni Shrine honors 14 Class A war criminals along with millions of war dead, and visits there by Japanese leaders have angered Korea and China, former victims of Tokyo's past militarism. Abe is currently in Italy for the Asia-Europe meeting and will return home on Saturday. The offering suggests he will stay away from the shrine to leave room for mending ties with Seoul and Beijing. Abe's visit to the shrine last December, the first by a sitting prime minister since 2006, not only enraged Japan's neighbors, but also disappointed Washington. The Japanese leader has been trying to set up bilateral meetings with his Chinese and South Korean counterparts on the sidelines of the upcoming APEC summit in Beijing next month. Abe has yet to sit down with President Park Geun-hye and Xi Jinping due to their deep differences of opinion over Japan's wartime wrongdoings. But even if Abe stays away from the controversial sites, eyes will be trained on his cabinet. Japan's Internal Affairs Minister Sanae Takaichi suggested this week that she will pay homage at the shrine at some point during the 4-day festival. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
Well, it's that time in the newscast where we take a look at the global headlines we're following. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim at the News Centre.
Eunice, it's now a race against time in central Nepal. Rescue teams are scouring popular hiking routes in the Himalayas, looking for survivors after a massive snowstorm.
That's right, Jin-joo. That blizzard earlier this week really hit the climbers by surprise, as this month usually has good weather conditions, attracting trekkers from all over the world. But with the death toll climbing, this disaster, the second this year, is en route to becoming the worst Nepal has seen. Our Swon Jung-in takes us there.
The rescue operation in Nepal continues for scores of trekkers remain unaccounted for after deadly blizzards and avalanches hit the popular Annapurna circuit earlier in the week. Mountain rescue crews and helicopters are scouring hiking trails in the Himalayas, searching for survivors of the severe snowstorm. At least 29 have been confirmed killed, including hikers from Israel, Canada, India, and Poland.
We were on a trip and around Annapurna, heavy snowing and very horrible storm.
The Trekking Agencies Association of Nepal said more than 70 people are missing. Rescue workers say some may have already left the area but simply lost contact due to poor communication links. Some 50 South Korean climbers who lost contact with authorities earlier are reported to be safe inside their cabins.
As you know, there is no reception in many places in Nepal at the moment, so we don't know where is the other people, but we're sure that everything is okay.
However, with so many bodies presumed to be buried under the snow, authorities warned the death toll could very well rise. The unusual snowstorms in the region appear to have been triggered by the remnants of Cyclone Hot, which wreaked havoc in India last week. Swon Jung-in, Arirang News.
Traffic has returned to the streets of Mong Kok in Hong Kong after police cleared out the area early this morning. It was around 5 o'clock Friday morning local time when the territory's police superintendent announced the imminent roadblock removal. Now, riot police followed, tearing down those barricades and using cranes, as you see there, to clear out tents and other items scattered around the roads. They were reopened to traffic by the 7 o'clock hour. This as a day earlier, embattled leader C.Y. Leung had said he's ready to restart talks with student leaders as early as next week. He said he's in no position to offer concessions to meet protesters' demands for fully free elections in the financial hub. What the Hong Kong government could offer, he said, were discussions within the framework of the decision of the National People's Congress Standing Committee in China. Now, Apple has announced a few new gadgets earlier today, including 2 new smaller tablets, an iPad Air 2 and an iPad Mini 3. Both feature the Touch ID fingerprint sensor, just like the newer iPhones, in time for Apple Pay, set to launch in the U.S. starting Monday. CEO Tim Cook said the iPad Air 2 at 6.1 millimeters thick is the thinnest device of its kind on the market. The U.S. tech giant also released a new operating system, the Yosemite, and a new iMac, whose Retina display boasts a 5K resolution, which it says has about 5 times the detail of a full HD TV.
Stay up to date on the latest news out of Korea, connecting to our team of reporters about the issues that matter to Korea. On air, on your mobile, online. Find out more about Korea on NEWSLINE at Noon with Mark Broome and Eoh Jin-joo.
I'm Eoh Jin-joo.
Market researcher, strategy analytics, said Thursday that LG Electronics brought in about...
The highest international decision-making body in IT and telecom policies kicks off its biggest conference next week here in Korea. The delegates who will take part in this three-week event have already started arriving from around the world, and Arirang News' Sung Ji-san tells us what's on their agenda.
Over the weekend, some 3,000 government delegates, including 150 ministers and vice ministers of ICT, will gather at Korea's southern port city of Busan for this year's ITU Plenipotentiary Conference. Its main purpose is setting up global standards in telecommunications and related technologies, but its role in recent years has expanded with a goal of narrowing the information gap between nations through the sharing of ICT policy experience to set a common vision for the future. A day before the official kickoff of the three-week conference, the annual ICT ministerial meeting will be held at Busan's APEC House under the theme, The Future Role of ICT and Sustainable Development with Inclusive ICTs. On Sunday, the Busan Declaration will be announced, embracing goals ranging from growth, inclusiveness, and sustainability to innovation and partnership. Seoul also seeks to use this opportunity to promote its creative economy models and showcase its latest technologies in the field. Korea's major telecom and handset makers will reveal their advanced 5G technologies, while small and mid-sized companies will be exhibiting their ideas and products at multiple expos held throughout the three-week conference. Sung Ji-san, Arirang News.
Now for some Friday cultural news. And if you're looking for something to do this weekend and you want to take in a ballet performance, you'll be well served to head down to the Seoul Arts Centre in southern Seoul, where a new spin on a classical piece of music is sure to leave a really great impression. Our Park Geun-hye reports.
Unlike other classical pieces, this modern ballet doesn't have characters or a plot. The 40-minute performance attempts to visualize every note of Beethoven's Symphony No. 7, a masterpiece of classical music that's best known for its lively, dance-like rhythms and festive motifs. In a perfect conversation between music and dance, the movements of the dancers capture the joy, rapture, and sensibility of Beethoven's symphony. The ballet was choreographed by late German dancer Uwe Schwartz and premiered in 1991 by the Stuttgart Ballet, the very place that artistic director of Korea's National Ballet, Kang Soo-jin, has danced for nearly 3 decades.
This kind of the pieces, one is neoclassic, still with the point shoes, very difficult technique, and then one is contemporary. Until now, I think they haven't done yet this kind of pieces as a ballet dancer. One is beautiful, it's mathematics, Uwe Schwartz piece, and the musicality is so unique, and the Rise of Spring is so powerful.
Kang hopes the Korean premiere of the ballet will benefit both dancers and audiences to help them appreciate new interpretations of the genre. The performance will run through this Sunday at Seoul Arts Center. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. The entire nation is off to a beautiful late autumn day, although it was quite chilly this morning. In fact, most regions woke up to the chilliest morning of the season, and it was 6.6 degrees Celsius here in the capital, but we'll have a relatively mild afternoon, a bit warmer than yesterday in the 20-degree range. So the daytime high in the capital will rise to 20, while Daegu and Gwangju, Busan, that is, will peak at 21, and Gwangju will rise to 22 this afternoon. And for other regions, it looks like Jeju Island and Daejeon will see highs of 20, and Dokdo peaks at 18. Well, it seems like the weather should remain pleasant throughout the weekend, but Sunday afternoon could be a cloudy one due to nationwide showers that are forecasted early next week. Also, do notice big temperature gap between lows and highs and dress accordingly to avoid catching a cold. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, those are the stories we're following on this Friday lunchtime here in Seoul.
Have a great weekend. Mark and I'll be back at the same time on Monday.
Yes, we will. Until then, goodbye.